When NPR announced that they were leaving Twitter, if you were on the right, then you were probably pretty happy to hear this and were probably celebrating. But if you're on the left, then you're probably upset or up in arms about the fact that it was labeled as state-sponsored media and as such chose to leave the platform. But if you had no opinions on this, then you're probably a well-adjusted person that touches grass at least once in a while, and I'm begging you to exit off the video now. It is not worth your soul to get caught up in this drama. And a quick thing before I move on with the video, this is not meant to be a political video. Politics will have to be discussed because it's relevant to the material of video, but I'm going to remain neutral on it and try and give a take that is objective. And also for the why it matters in the title, it's important to note that it really only matters for people that use Twitter or care about Twitter, or maybe Elon Musk himself because he owns Twitter. And this leaving matters because without a consistent number of interesting accounts or celebrities or organizations for people to follow and keep up with, then Twitter as a platform kind of ceases to exist. And if you're someone that doesn't really care about Twitter, then I'm begging you, this is your last chance to exit off the video. Your sanity is not worth it. Now, when I initially saw on Twitter, ironically, that NPR had left, it didn't really register as anything to care about to me. People and organizations join and leave Twitter all of the time, and it's never made a difference to my life in the past, so I didn't really see a reason why it would start mattering now. However, the more I thought about it, I thought maybe this leaving isn't as neutral of a thing as I had originally thought, because I believe this decision right here runs the risk of driving away a section of Twitter's audience, and removing that section of its audience would be detrimental to the platform. Now, I'm not talking about NPR specifically, as I don't think they're big enough for anyone to really care or notice that they're gone, but rather I'm using NPR to highlight kind of a bigger issue. I think Twitter runs the risk of, if not failing, losing at least a lot of relevancy if it chooses to drive away certain demographics. For example, if it started showing major favoritism towards politics or political accounts, then people who primarily use Twitter for, say, sports, for example, might feel alienated by the sudden shift towards politics, because it's alienating their demographic away from what they were interested in towards something that they're really not interested in. And as such, Twitter would, hypothetically, lose that demographic of sports fans. But the same thing would work in reverse. Twitter has a huge political audience, but let's say they wanted to start promoting something that was less controversial and less prone to fighting. So they decide they're gonna start promoting gaming instead. The demographic that's on Twitter that is interested in political content may feel alienated by this decision to shift content away from one thing and towards favoring another thing. And as such, that might cause them to leave the platform. Whenever you make a change, there's a push and a pull towards any potential audience. And the idea of making small changes to update a website is that there will be a bigger pull that pulls in an audience than there will be push that pushes an audience away. Looking at Instagram, their Reels is a very good example of this. There was a push and a pull when they updated to start putting Reels as a more prominent feature of Instagram. There was a pull as they tried to pull people in to use Reels and spend longer on the app, and as such pull in more engagement. But there was also a push as it pushed people away from the platform who weren't interested in using or watching Reels. Instagram's hope is that the pull of new people watching Reels and the engagement from the Reels will outweigh the pushing out of the people that it alienated, because Reels are now such a core part of its platform. However, I think the general decision to start labeling different accounts as certain things, not just NPR but others as well, will ultimately turn out to be more of a push factor than it will be a pull factor. And to understand this, we have to talk about why we like Twitter. I think the primary reason a lot of people like Twitter is we get to follow celebrities, topics, and organizations that we are interested in. And not only can I follow them, I can have a direct and instantaneous connection with them to kind of an extent I could have on no other platform. I once tweeted at Jarvis Johnson and he tweeted back. Probably if I had tagged him in a picture, he wouldn't notice, or if I'd sent him a Snapchat, he wouldn't care. Because unlike other platforms where there's usually another primary driver, Twitter's primary driver is this immediate and informal connection with people that we are interested in. And a lot of celebrities are just on here engaging with people and talking and sharing their thoughts for free, which is absolutely insane when you imagine how expensive it would be to get any one of these celebrities to do that in almost any other circumstance. This fun, easy, no-cost glimpse into the lives of people that I'm interested in is kind of wild, because I can get this at no monetary cost to myself. And not only is it kind of wild to have this kind of access to people that I could never have this kind of access to 10, 15 years ago, but it's very unique. If I follow a celebrity on Instagram, for instance, 10 times out of 10, every picture they post has some kind of filter attached to it, whether that be professionally done makeup, Photoshop, Instagram filters, or professionally taken pictures, or maybe even something else entirely. This is very obviously not a real look into the celebrity's real life. This is all staged, and I think pretty much everyone is aware of that. Now, Facebook, I don't really know because I'm actually not on Facebook that much, but I imagine everything that's posted here is also a very carefully curated statement that's been reviewed and re-reviewed and gone through several people before it ever makes it to posting on the social platform. And as such, is not something I would consider a real insight into any of these celebrities' lives. The impromptu informality of a quick tweet is what makes Twitter so unique. Not only do I not think that kind of impromptu informality exists on Facebook pretty much at all, but also no one on Gen Z really uses Facebook. Reddit is my favorite social media platform, but I don't think Reddit is a substitute for Twitter at all. Primarily, Reddit is just a curated feed of stuff that happens on other social media websites, with one of the more prominent ones being featured on Reddit is Twitter. It's basically a big curation and discussion or debate grounds for things that are happening outside of Reddit. And on top of that, basically everyone on Reddit is anonymous. I don't know of any celebrities that are on Reddit. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm just saying it's not nearly as mainstream to have Reddit celebrities. To highlight the uniqueness of Twitter even more, let's look at the tweets of one of the most popular creators currently alive, Mr. Beast. Sometimes he does interesting things, like posts screenshots of his analytics on Twitter, or other things like this tweet from Eddie Burback that says, "Love how John Wick will just shoot someone while they're being hit by a bus just to make sure." Like, that funny thought probably just kind of jumped into his head at a random time. And when that happens, there's not really anywhere else to post it besides Twitter, because that's the kind of platform that really thrives on this kind of quick, informal, instantaneous, thought-provoking or not kind of comments. You're not going to find this on Instagram or Reddit or Snapchat. It's one of the things that makes Twitter Twitter. So if we like Twitter because we get this kind of unique, informal, instantaneous, and potentially conversational contact with people that we're interested in, then based on that thesis statement, let's talk about why NPR leaving Twitter is bad for Twitter. Now, I'll be honest, like I said earlier, I don't think NPR itself leaving Twitter is going to cause anyone to leave or join the platform. I don't think it's large enough or consequential enough for that kind of effect. I would honestly be surprised if anyone missed NPR, or after a few weeks really even noticed they were gone. I'm not trying to insinuate that NPR leaving equals Twitter downfall or anything like that. But if this becomes a pattern of systematically pushing away any accounts that Elon Musk personally doesn't agree with, that's going to become an issue. Because there are lots of people that disagree with Elon Musk, and they are going to think that if Twitter just becomes a platform of Elon Musk plus Elon Musk things that Elon Musk agrees with, then they're not going to be part of this platform that is Twitter. Every account that is on Twitter adds and subtracts something from the website. However, most of these additions and subtractions are so small and inconsequential that it doesn't really make a difference. Some accounts like NPR, for example, might add some left-leaning users who are interested in following the NPR Twitter account, but at the same time, it may subtract some right-leaning users who are upset about the fact that NPR is now on the platform. But then the opposite might be true for an organization like Fox News. It might add those right-leaning users who are interested in keeping up with Fox News on Twitter, but subtract those left-leaning users who are upset that Fox News is on Twitter. But Twitter works so well as such a massive and mainstream platform because it has both. For every Hassan Piker, there's a Tucker Carlson. For every Laura Boebert, there's a Bernie Sanders. Now, I realize that there are a lot of people on Twitter that try to avoid politics, and that's valid, but in my experience, that's also very hard to do. Because like I said before, Twitter is about quick and informal opinions, and politics really lends itself well to quick and informal opinions because everyone has an opinion about politics because of how universal of an experience it is to be affected by politicians. It's not exclusively political, of course, but it's a place where politics thrives because of how easy it is to talk about given the context of politics and given the allowances that Twitter makes. But when organizations start to leave due to actions by Twitter that give a biased perception of the platform, that could influence other people to leave because it gives the impression that Twitter as a platform has biased leanings. And it's obvious to see why this would be a potential issue for the platform. When people have a negative perception of Twitter, they leave, and this causes users to drop, and this causes engagement to drop, and this ultimately causes revenue to drop. And when you've got users, engagement, and revenue all dropping, then everybody loses because the platform isn't able to function to its fullest potential because it's no longer able to sustain itself. The people who are no longer on the platform feel like they lost out because they no longer have the connections to those organizations or celebrities that they were originally interested in. And then the people that are left on the platform also lose out because the platform that they enjoy using is on a slow and steady decline decline due to its own decisions. Now, I know a lot of people are going to look at me and say, but Andrew, before Elon Musk, there was Jack Dorsey. And Jack Dorsey also had leanings, except his leanings were just the other way. And I think in specific instances, this actually is a reasonable argument to make, especially when you look at something like the banning of Donald Trump. But I also want to point out what the banning of Donald Trump actually did for the platform. As Donald Trump left, he took a lot of conservative users with him, and that's why you get the rise of all of these conservative social media apps like Truth Social, Gab, Parler, Getter, and so on. They all blew up because this was happening. And while ultimately banning Donald Trump did not negatively affect Twitter's numbers, as they reported going up in users in the next quarter, you have to remember that Donald Trump was just one person, and he, by himself getting banned, gave rise to all of these other social media platforms. But if you think about a slow, systematic alienation of an entire demographic on Twitter as you slowly push out left-leaning media, you can imagine how that would have a cumulative effect on the platform, causing a few people to leave at a time until you've lost the entire demographic. And this would absolutely go both ways. Imagine if Elon Musk stepped down and a very liberal CEO took over and then started labeling Fox News and Newsweek or Newsmax and OAN as conservative propaganda. Whether or not that label is actually true kind of becomes irrelevant, because all it's doing is serving to alienate en masse all of the conservatives that are on the platform, and that also would be equally detrimental to Twitter. And while some people might choose to be happy that a bunch of conservatives have left Twitter, from a business perspective, and ergo from the perspective of the people who want Twitter to be able to keep functioning as it is, losing half of your user base just in an instant is really no bueno. And honestly, we know that's bad, because Truth Social, for the very same reason, is having trouble being profitable. Being a conservative leading social media makes a lot of companies very cautious before they advertise on the platform, because they don't want to be perceived politically one way or the other. And in addition to that, the potential user base for something like Truth Social is already much smaller than it otherwise could be, specifically because it's a conservative platform made for conservative people. Now, I want to be clear, I'm not making a value call as to whether or not it's a good thing or a bad thing to have social medias that lean one way or the other. I'm just saying that from a business perspective, having a platform that's so hyper-specific one way or the other makes it very hard from a business perspective for that platform to be profitable. But Twitter would have it even worse than that, because they currently have both conservatives and liberals that are on the platform. So to alienate one group or the other would be even worse, because that would mean that they had that user base and then actively lost that user base due to their actions, as opposed to how it is on Truth Social, where you kind of just never had that user base in the first place. If you have a large user base and then you lose half of that user base, then you lose potentially about half the money you're making. And that will give you a very uncertain future. In overly simplified terms, Twitter works because of people that people are interested in. People are interested in LeBron James, and LeBron James is on Twitter. Therefore, people will go and join Twitter in order to keep up with that interesting LeBron James. And that's a pretty natural order of operations. It makes sense that there is a system that would work like this. I never go to Twitter to learn about what's up with my friends, because I've got Instagram and Snapchat and Be Real for that kind of thing. Those platforms are just much more personal to me. But at the same time, I don't really use these platforms to keep up with celebrities I'm interested in. But imagine, if you will, if Twitter started favoring esports over more traditional athletic sports, like I had mentioned at the beginning of the video. That would push away the people that were interested in traditional and athletic sports. And to lose those people would be a huge detriment to Twitter's platform. And in the same way, the state-sponsored media labels that's been put on NPR's Twitter and the Twitter of other companies like it, whether or not it's true, could push some people towards leaving Twitter, and it could even be the last straw for some people that are already contemplating leaving Twitter. And in the same way, if a really left-leaning CEO came on board and started pushing connotative labels to conservative media Twitters, that would drive a lot of conservative people away. And then I would make another video calling out that as stupid, because you're destroying the platform you built in order to get, I don't know, petty revenge? Now, I know in the past I've said that if Twitter fails, we shouldn't really care, because it's a social media, and ultimately social medias are replaceable. And after a time, we'll look on Twitter fondly, but we won't really miss it. But I think I'm going to amend that a little bit and say, if you love Twitter and Twitter is important to you, then I think this is something that should matter to you. Thanks for watching.